Kia ora, this is Jess, and I am going to walk you through how I design my lessons today. The first place I start is always my unit plan because it's my roadmap to the rest of the unit and how the entire learning is going to take place. I go down to wherever I'm up to in learning intentions and success criteria. Because these are broken up into little sections, I can just follow them in the way that makes sense, so from the beginning and onwards. Next, what I do is I go over to a Google Slides. What I'm going to show you is just a folder that I keep all of my information for this specific standard in. As you can see, all of my slideshows for each week are named by T1W1, so that is Term 1, Week 1, through T1W8, Term 1, Week 8. And those all refer to things that we're doing during the week. After that, I have got just a rough kind of overview of what the topic that week is. For example, Term 1, Week 3 is about relationships. Now, if I open that, it's going to bring us to my lesson plan, essentially, for the year. Well, for this lesson, for this week. So the first thing I do is I will go to a new slide. I display these slides on the whiteboard so my students always know where to go for the instructions, and I display them right at the top, and the only time that they're not on the whiteboard is when I'm using the whiteboard to present something else. On the right hand side, I have my learning intentions and success criteria. That way it's super easy to refer back to, and I remember to refer to it throughout the lesson. On the left hand side, I will usually include a do now as my first part of the lesson. Now this one is a super kind of simple one. This isn't something that I would do all the time. This is just after a brief kind of overview, and I use it as a form of kind of formative assessment in the sense that I am able to find out from the students where they feel that they're at. This isn't the only thing I would use for formative assessment, but it's definitely an opportunity. Next, we get into the work. So I generally use these and talk to these. There's also work put down on our OneNote for these things. So I'm just going to skip ahead to an activity. Here's an activity where we're talking about relationships in databases. What I did here was we decided as a class that everyone would have to sit down and contribute to the board what different kinds of relationships they can think of. This was just a particular activity that I chose that aligns with the different success criteria. For example, this one is talking about what the function of a one-to-one relationship and one-to-many relationship is. So just understanding what those are to start with. Here's another example of something that we talked about as a class. And here's some information talking about what primary keys and foreign keys are. So as you can see, I've got another do now. What happened is that was the end of that lesson for that day, and I like to organize all of my lessons by week in the slideshows. So that is essentially what I've done, is I've taken from the unit plan, from the standard, I've organized my unit plan, and from the unit plan I have taken my learning intentions and success criteria, and then I have developed activities that will relate to those success criteria and fulfill those learning intentions, which will enable them to meet the criteria of the standard.